Hey, everybody. It is Shown in India with Coach Marketing Mastery. Today, we are going to delve into the life and dreams and hopes and reality of India Kern.
Yes. So you use Delve like Chat GPT.
That's because it's probably the best world in the entire planet. But here, we're just going to jump right into this. I've been doing podcasts for, I don't know, 5 years, 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe longer. I don't know. But, we're going on 50,000 downloads. And the thing is that I only asked 4 questions. I
Okay.
can't remember what they are, but we're going to jump right into it. So, the first question is going to be um, everyone that is in business, in my opinion, they enjoy doing something. Maybe I shouldn't use the word enjoy, but they learned and experienced something before they started a business. So, a guy that sells shoes might have been a runner, or like there's this guy that sells these, that started the
Yeah.
shoe thing on Shark Tank, and he was like a runner. So, what were you doing when you were younger that got you into what you're doing now? And I'm not saying the divorce coaching, I'm saying
No, no,
coaching.
no. I know. Creating. I'm an artist. So I
Okay.
love to create. I love taking something from nothing and creating. So that goes in everything I've done. It's whether it's writing a book or creating social content or writing a newsletter. I love words. I use words like art. I'm an artist. I'm a sculptor. I studied in Italy. I paint now. I draw, but mostly my artistic expression is comes out in writing and video content now.
Okay, but how did that all get started? Like, what
So my
happened?
mom, so when I was little, my mom was an artist, and she always encouraged that. Like she said, everyone's an artist. You just have to draw what you see. And so she taught me to draw what I see, rather than draw what I think I see. You know, when you draw a horse, you put on paper what you think a horse looks like, but you really have to look at the horse to draw it. And so she encouraged me to create. So we were always with pen and paper and charcoal. She was encouraging that and encouraging me to be an artist. So that was something that helped me really cultivate that spirit of anyone's an artist. And I do believe that, even when people say, oh, I can't draw at all. Well, you can, you just have to practice. It's like, going to the gym and lifting a weight, and you get sore, and you learn how to do the movement properly, and then you start getting good at it. But I think everyone is an artist. They just haven't practiced enough.
Right. Do you know the story about the little girl named India in Sunday school?
No. Well, I don't
So,
know.
so
Maybe.
there's this little girl named India, and she was drawing a picture in Sunday school, and the Sunday school teacher said, "India, what are you drawing?" And she goes, "Well, I'm drawing a picture of God." And the Sunday school teacher goes, "Well, India, no one knows what God looks like." And India says, "They'll know when I'm done drawing this picture." Right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's all like an experience. So then you have this experience drawing, and then like really connecting, and maybe you had a talent in that. But what happened that made you go, okay, now I'm going to go out there and do something about this?
Yeah. So after I lived in Italy for a while, I came back and I decided to be a graphic artist, but I hadn't studied graphic art. I had studied fine art. And so I remember the first job, one of the first jobs, they're like, can you do Photoshop? I'm like, yeah, I had no idea how to do Photoshop. So I went home. I was like, I got to learn Photoshop quick. And so I learned it enough to get by, to fool them. And so before you know it, I was really, really almost an expert at Photoshop. And so I was then giving a tutorial. So it's the best way to learn. It's like just force yourself. I wanted the job so bad that that's what I did. And it was in television. So I did a lot of video editing, and it was for the news. So you had to create so fast because breaking news would come in, they'd run it to me. They're like, you have 10 minutes to create this. I'm like, what? And it was such an adrenaline rush, and I had so much fun. It was at WMAZ, Macon, Georgia. It was the worst paying job I've ever had, the most fun I've ever had in a job.
Yeah. And so, but the thing is, and I just want to kind of fast forward a little bit, but I want to bring it back to this. When you went in there and you were like 5 minutes before everyone, did you have the feeling of like imposter syndrome? Like they're going to find out?
Sure, but I think I was so young and naive that I was just like, I want this job so bad. I'm going to do everything it takes. So,
Yeah.
sure, I was like, if they know that I don't know Photoshop at all, they're not going to hire me. So, of course, I had imposter syndrome, but I was too um, just determined to get the job. So I just learned it.
Okay. And so then that got you into WMAZ, or what is that what
Right.
it was
So
called?
amazing. Yeah.
WMAZ in Georgia, Macon, Georgia. Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then what happened from there? Like most people, they start out having a job. I started out washing dishes at church, and then I got into, other jobs. But then came a point where I had to go from getting a paycheck with someone's name at the top
Mhm.
to being an entrepreneur. So what was that shift like? What happened?
Yeah.
And what made you go, really, okay, now I have to really start generating my own business?
Yeah, I hated working for people. Even though that was a fun job, I had a spirit of like, I've got to get out from under people. And I've had it my whole life. And so while I was working at all these other jobs, they were usually in graphic art. I was doing things on the side and I was getting paid to do logos and whatever. I was always hustling and thinking, okay, how do I get out from working for someone? And that is just my spirit. I also married someone like that, my first husband, and we were both driven. We did not want to work for other people. We wanted to work for ourselves. So a few years in working for other people, then I went out on my own and I was a freelancer. And so that's what I did for a while. And then let's see, 2002. So this is like 96 to 2002. I was working, doing graphics and video editing and all that, and always wanting more, always wanting to be my own boss. And the freelancing was kind of like, that was being my own boss. Then I got married and we had our first child. So I stopped working for a while. So that was where my creative energy was in raising children. So I had two daughters, and that was from 2002 to well, it's been continuous. I'm still raising them, even though they're young adults. But that was for about, gosh, 13, 14 years where I didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you came back to the working world.
Mhm.
And so what a lot of people and a lot of the listeners don't know is that when you're an entrepreneur, like you gotta really hustle
Mhm.
to generate money. It's not, you could watch The Secret and money comes easily and freely, and all I have to do is, wear this cape, right? That's like some type of delusional thinking that
Mhm.
people have. And I get the context of the mindset, but that's not really how it happens. Like
Right,
we have a saying, if you want a cheese sandwich, you don't go in the closet and pray for a cheese sandwich. You just
right.
go in the kitchen and make one, right?
Or positive think your way into a cheese sandwich.
Yeah, which I'm going to do right after this podcast. So then what happened? How did you start getting out there
Yeah.
and really getting like, okay, just so the listeners know, if you Google divorce coaching San Diego, just go and do it and see what happens. But India is going to come to the top above the lawyers that are paying $6,000 a month. All right. And hers is all organic.
Yeah.
So
So,
what
so
happened next?
okay, so then I went through a divorce, and then I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I was pretty scared because we created a nice lifestyle, and I was nervous about how I was going to maintain it. And so I started many different things. I was a yoga instructor. I wrote a book. I did all these other things. Nothing worked out. And then, well, back up, when I was going through divorce, what I did notice is that therapy was great for understanding why I married the person I did. However, it did not help me through the process of divorce. So I was fumbling. I made a lot of emotional mistakes. I spent way too much money. I didn't know what I didn't know. So as I'm in this life transition, I was like, there's no resources for people going through divorce. Yes, there's therapy, but that's different. My therapist had never been divorced, couldn't guide me, couldn't tell me referrals and tell me how to do, like, what would be the best way, or coach me through it, really. And so after I went through that process, well, during the whole process, I was writing down everything. I was writing down things that worked, things that didn't work. And my mom turned to me. She goes, "You know, you're going to write a book." And I was like, "I'm not going to write a book. There's no way." Well, those journals, and there were probably 20 of them, turned into a book, and it's called "Surviving the Unwanted Divorce." So that was part of my therapy, I guess you could say. It would help me dump all the muck and mire on the pages of a book and help others through it. So my Surviving the Unwanted Divorce is really a guidebook for people that are going through an unwanted divorce and a life transition. So I started with a book, and I self-published. And then a friend of mine said, there's this life coaching course I really think you'd be so good at. And so I was actually the pastor's wife. And I said, okay, I'll try it. So I went to that, and I loved it. And so then I started life coaching, but everyone that came to me was usually a person going through a divorce, didn't want it, didn't know how to manage it. And I'm thinking to myself, why in the world am I working in such a broad spectrum? So I thought to myself, I'm going to niche down. I'm going to be a divorce coach. But I had never heard of a divorce coach. Honestly, I thought I was the first person that thought of it. I was like, I'm a divorce coach. And so I niche in divorce coaching. And then I started poking around and going, I wonder if anybody else is doing what I'm doing. And I look and I see that you can get certified as a divorce coach. I'm already practicing as a divorce coach. And then I thought to myself, you know what, that would probably be good for me. So I got certified, and it just refined me. It made my coaching that much better. And so I really came to be a divorce coach like this. I became the guide that I did not have in 2011 when I was fumbling my way through divorce, and I was so distraught. And I spent way too much time worrying and in a loop of anxiety when I didn't have to be.
Right. And then you got into that.
Mhm.
You became successful. You started making more money than most people, if not. I mean, you got to the top 1% of that in that coaching industry. And then it turned out that you got really good at social media marketing. And a lot of times when we get really good at something, we don't know we're good at something. Like I literally just posted something in a private Facebook group saying,
Right,
"Hey, what do you guys think this is, and how do you think it works?" When I know what it is, and I'm probably
right.
one of the best people to build it, but I just want to know what their idea is. So you didn't know how good you are, but then you realize, you know what, people need to know this. So then, how did that all occur to
So
where?
so yeah, so then I had to market myself, right? And so I drew from all those acquired skills that I had in my past. So video came naturally. So did editing. So I was like, oh wow, social media is really my jam, because it's everything I loved to do back in late 90s, early 2000s. So it all worked out. And as a divorce coach, as any coach, marketer, entrepreneur, you have to market yourself. So I
Right,
had to start getting on social media and getting over any fears of being on video, and just start talking and telling people, like really connecting with them in their pain. And so I noticed that I was getting some traction. I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. So then we came together and we started talking. I had been telling you so those of you that
let's
don't
back up
know.
before you go into that. You said something really interesting, and you said overcoming the fear of making videos. And
Yeah.
you just don't seem to have fear when you're making videos. So what was that like, and what was the fear? Did you stutter out of your mutter? Did you get a feeling within yourself like, ugh, like some people get a little ill before the camera comes on, like Cindy
Yeah, I
Brady?
didn't get ill, but what I do, like, the first videos were terrible. I look back and I'm kind of like, oh, shaking my head. But that was the beginning. And what I say now is I have no shame. I just get out there and I do it. And the more you
Yeah.
do it, the better you become at it, and you don't even care. And so now I'm to the point where you just turn on a camera and I'll say anything, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you mess up, and so I did mess up. I did mess up. So getting
So
over it was actually
tell
doing
us
it.
about one of the videos you made that was just a disaster in your head. That may not have been a disaster to other people, but for you,
Yeah.
this is dumb.
Sorry, my dog's scratching. So it's funny, the videos that I spent the least amount of time on, I thought about them for like 10 seconds, usually do the best. And that's still true to this day. The least amount of time investment I do in a video usually does a lot better when it's like just right. I think of it, I shoot it, I'm done. It usually does the best. And you'll see it's like memes about that. It's like you labor over something and it gets like 20 views, and then you do a quick stupid video about your dog and it goes viral. So it's don't be scared to get in front of the camera and stutter, utter, yeah, and do all, make all the
Oh
mistakes.
man, you're like a convict. That comes from prison. But anyhow, go ahead.
Anyway, so I got over it by just doing it, just
Yeah.
in front of the camera and doing it.
It's funny. This isn't about me, this podcast, but I made a video when Larry Ellison was the third richest man in the world. People don't even know who that is now. He started a company called Oracle. And in that, I started talking like some guy from England.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, I watched that now and I'm like, oh my God. And I wasn't doing it on purpose. It just kind of happened.
Right.
And then yeah. So there's some cringe out there with me.
Oh, completely. I do too. I look at those old videos. I'm like, what was I doing? Why was I doing cooking when I'm like,
Yeah.
what was I doing? Like,
And I also had to go back. I got coached by this guy named Jay Abraham. He lives, from my neighborhood, Palos Verdes, which is my dad's. I don't claim that. I claim Hermosa Beach but anyhow, my dad lived up in, on the hill. And I said, I got all these videos out there of me being a ding dong.
right.
And so he told me about this process to remove them. So did you ever have to like remove stuff from social media in order to like really present who you are? I had to.
I didn't. I just kind of look at it as an evolution. I didn't remove anything. I didn't think it was that bad. I mean,
Mine weren't really bad, but they could have been considered offensive to today's sensitive society, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I had to do some of that. Okay, great. So then the thing is, so what is going on now? Now you have like multiple businesses and you're doing various things and you're bringing in leads from like multiple angles. Mm-hmm. So what exactly is going on now?
So I'm still a divorce coach, but now I've expanded with you, and now we're doing marketing. We're marketing experts, and we do different things. But so Shone used to coach me, and I always would say to you, I'd be like, I want to coach coaches. And do you remember what you used to say to me? You're like, no, you don't. I'm like, yeah, I do. And you're like, no, you don't. And I'm like, but I think I do. And so this was probably a year or two ago.
Do you know why I said that?
I don't know. Maybe I wasn't ready. I don't know.
Nope.
Why?
Because I tell people go, Shone, I want to do what you do. And I go, no, you don't. They go, yeah, I do. And I go, no, you don't. And then they go, well, why do you say that? And I go, because if you wanted to do what I do, you'd be doing what I do. Like, this is a passion. It's not something that you just, there's a lot of people out there. This podcast, for example, there's a lot of people. I want to start a podcast. No, you don't. Well, why do you say that? Well, because you would start one, right? But now you stepped into your greatness, right? So what are some of the things that you're doing in social media that separates you from other people? This is kind of like a question coming out of left field, but I know that there's certain things that you do or certain things that other people may know, but the masses don't.
Gosh, I'm constantly, I think in reels. I know that sounds crazy, but because I see video and edit so much, when I'm doing anything everyday task, I'm like, oh, that would make such a good video.
So what you say, you think in what?
Reels or videos. Reels are just Instagram
you think
videos.
in reels?
Mm-hmm.
For reals?
Yeah. So
I
I
just wanted to say that.
I just think like, oh, this is great for video. So I write it down. I have lists and lists all over my office of the creativity. I never run out of creativity. That's one thing that I do not run out of, because I'm just constantly writing down ideas. So everyday activities can be inspiration for me.
So
And
what do you, so when you say, so where does this inspiration, so for me, and this is weird, but other people do it, it's called a download. It's where you get, where your thoughts all come together and you're like, oh, I'll give you an example. I was trying to think of someone's grandchild's name. And I'm like, I can't remember their grand. So I was taking a shower and I'm like, oh, that's what it is, right?
Mhm.
So I always get these ideas or thoughts, or it returns to me. So where do you usually get your downloads, or where you're like, oh,
I
that's how
do.
I do it?
Yeah. So every morning I'm pretty structured in my mornings, and I get up early. I read, like this morning, I read the Bible. I do a devotion, and I get so much inspiration from scripture. And people don't know that because they don't hear me talk like the King James Version Bible. But so much of what I get is actually from scripture. And you would never know, but because I word it in everyday language.
Right, but do those, like when I'm thinking about something really complicated, and I'm like, I'm trying to do this really complicated thing and I can't figure it out. And then when I'm taking a shower, and this is just me, I'm like, oh, that. So what? Where do you get that? Like, oh, this is the reels that I should do.
Yeah,
That's
I
that
walk,
question.
and when I walk, I think, and I brainstorm, and I'll have to, take out my phone and record my ideas and my notes. I do that a lot. So I walk and think,
Right.
and that's when a lot of my inspiration comes up, or the download.
Do you think your little puppy has anything to do with that, or?
Sure, he always is great for inspiration, and he always does well when I shoot videos of him. Him and my husband. I mean, if I could have my husband on video all the time, I think I would be doing even better. He
Yeah.
always brings in engagement.
Yeah. Yeah. So then now you're doing, so tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. You have a few things that you're doing, and just tell us about them, and what that's all
Yeah,
about.
so now we have Coach Marketing Mastery, and so we have master classes. Well, we have a free master class every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, but we also have paid clients that come to classes Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Technically, you could come to a class every day except Monday, and we are going over everything marketing. And Sharon and I do different things. I'm more on the social media content and the messaging, and I'm really into AI. I've dove in like head first and explored that. So I use it so much in my everyday. And then he does automation. So we are different, but together we make a great team, because I don't want to do what he does, and I don't think he wants to do what I do, even though he can. So so yeah, right now, Coach Marketing Mastery is a big part of my life, as well as divorce coaching. But I love coaching, and that's the thing; it's all coaching. And so it isn't that different for me to also have one foot, in divorce coaching space, and then one foot in coaching coaches like divorce coaches, and
Right.
or any coach really, or entrepreneur. So
So here's the question that I ask everybody. This is kind of like how I've done my podcast over the years. Where did
yeah.
you start? What, and it's like, what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. It's like, where did
Mhm,
you start? What happened? It's like just any Bible story, right? Like, this
mhm.
guy was here, and then he's like sleeping with the pigs, and now he's wearing the ring, right? I don't
Right,
know.
right.
I don't know if you know the story of the ring and the prodigal son, but the family ring had the family emblem on it, and when you sealed a letter, there'd be wax, and you'd press your ring onto the letter, and it'd put your. So that's why he got the ring. But anyhow, so what is the one thing that you would change about your business right now, or what's the one thing you've always wanted to do in business that you haven't done yet?
Well, I'm doing what I want to do. I just want to expand it. So everything we're doing
Well, then
is
let me back that up. What is the one thing you would change in your business to make it grow?
I would I would speak more. I would get out there more. We would get out there more. I want to expand it. I love what we're doing. I think it's so valuable, and people get a lot of information, even on the free masterclass calls. So they keep coming back. And if I want to fill rooms, that's what I want to do.
Right, right. But so then that gets back to the question: what's the one thing that you want to do that you haven't done yet? And that would be fill rooms, right?
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
that's kind of like the thing is become a bigger fish in a bigger pond, and that's everybody. And some of the things, some of these guys, actually, the guy that now that's been said for centuries, become a bigger fish in a bigger pond. But the one guy that really kind of said it over and over to me, he was a big fish. He was one of the initial big fish in the
Mhm.
internet as internet marketers. And then he went away.
Mm.
Then all these other people came out and then he came back and then he's like, wow, these people surpassed me. So you got to consistently be in there. Which brought me to another thought. I can't remember what it was, but it had to do with just these people, these little whippersnappers coming up fast. So when it comes to competition,
Mhm.
are you concerned about that, or do you just think there's an abundance of people out there that need your help?
I think abundantly. There's so much work out there,
Yeah.
and I don't think that I don't I don't even think about competition really. There's
Okay.
so much work out there in anything that we do.
So we're going to wrap this up. And my final question is this: what's your next step?
My next step, um, I want to get on a stage. I do. Like I said, I want to fill a room, but I want to make it big. And I think also it would be incredible if we could go one step above and do masterminds and actually have an in-person mastermind wherever it would be, San Diego, wherever, and fill that room, not big, like
Yeah, 10
20 or
people.
less, 10 people, something like that. And that would be a dream.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is just, I'm going to tell you some secrets after this podcast, but we're going to wrap this up. So here's the thing is that you started out just being a creative and your
Mhm,
mom saying, create, and you did.
mhm.
So my final question, just to wrap this up, is when you were a little girl, what would you do if you could go back and tell her, hey, what would you tell her to where she could do things differently?
Wow. Like, it gets me emotional.
Yeah,
I would say everything's going to be okay.
right. Yeah, because we all have these traumas growing up and making it through them,
Yeah.
but then it just makes us stronger and stronger and stronger, right?
Yeah.
And so there's some of the things that I teach these classes at my house on Saturdays, which have to do with like taking care of that
Mm.
child when we were young. And one of the things I have people do is we have a picture of us when we were a little boy or a little girl,
Yeah.
and we put it in our living room, and no one knows we're doing this, and we say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take care of you today.
Yeah.
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 So
I mean, I just wasted so much time worried.
yeah,
And I would say everything is going to be okay. And I
yeah,
just didn't trust enough.
yeah. And worrying gets you nowhere, but you're where you're at today by taking the actions and just overcoming that. And that's what I like the most about you. And one of the things you said is you overcame the fear of making videos, right? And I
Yeah.
didn't even think you had fear of making videos.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so you've overcame a lot of fears just to get to this point.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're at the bottom of the hour, so we're going to wrap this up. And so how do people find you? indiakern.com.
That's right, indiakern.com, or come to our free masterclass if you want to become a bigger fish in a larger ocean or a bigger pond. Because we have a lot of fun. Shona and I are, gosh, we're like brother and sister at this point. But uh, we have fun. We many times put you on the hot seat, so you learn so much in an hour. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. And I'm actually going to let India speak more than me this Friday. So show up and hear at least 7% of India rather than 3% of India.
Yeah, and we didn't say the website, but it's coachmarketingmasterclass.com.
Coachmarketingmasterclass.com. Go to coachmarketingmasterclass.com every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, and we'll be there and we'll give you the hot seat. So go ahead and check it out, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks, India.